Hey, Story Hive, I'm Steve Sherman, and this is Andrew Lutke.
Hey guys, we're here today to talk with Steve. I'm really excited to sit down with you. Why don't we start off? Tell Storyhive a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in Los Angeles and learned to play trumpet when I was in 4th grade.
So you started pretty young.
Yes, I did.
Did you start with like the band program or?
I started actually in choir, got thrown out of the choir because I sang out of tune and too loud, and then she handed me a trumpet and said, "Congratulations, you're playing trumpet." No choice.
So you got promoted?
Yeah. It's interesting because I listened to music all my life, and actually I started with a toy trumpet before I even started school and messed around with that a bit, and learned I liked that, but I liked entertaining, and so it's all that thing about entertaining and being a musician, and that's part of the whole process, I think, for everybody. We aren't just don't play our instrument, we have to entertain people, including ourselves, so I got bit by the bug, and it's now history.
What was the cause for you to really, think that, hey, this is your path and this is what you can do?
Well, they brought Doc Severinsen in, being in LA, and my high school teacher was one of the top horn players in the studios, so he knew all these players. He'd bring them by to talk to us. We had uh, Doc come in and talk to us about playing trumpet. And he talked about the business and being a musician and had us look at his horns. And I liked what he was doing. And then we had people coming in. Bobby Troop was one of our subs at one time. And so he talked about it. Another man was Ralph Lee, who was a bassoonist in the studios when NBC had studio players. He'd tell us about the business. So between all his colleagues, that was a bug about playing. But going back again, the bug was then changed to become a teacher, even though I was playing all the way through university. My main goal was to become a music teacher.
So you graduated high school, and then what did you decide to do after high school?
Well, high school I kept on playing because that's how I paid for my college. And I went to the University of Southern California and studied classical music. And everybody thinks I'm a jazzer, but the only way I knew that you had to make it as a musician, you had to be well-rounded. So as a jazz musician, I decided I've got to learn the classical world. So I studied with some top classical trumpet players, got my chops classically, played in the orchestra, played in the chamber groups, and then started the jazz program with a bunch of other students at USC. Before that, it was a classical school. So there was no jazz program at USC.
And what year was that?
That'd be around 1971, 1970. Yes, I am old.
So that's kind of like right on the cusp of when jazz education really became more formalized and there were some more institutions popping up. So you were part of that.
Well, there were many of us, and many of us almost got thrown out of university for that because SC was known, or USC was known as a classical school.
So there's definitely a push against jazz.
There wasn't a push. None of the profs wanted to come to the concert. So what the person who started it with us, his name was Ken Snap. He was a studio musician at Universal, and he brought his colleagues in. Let's think who was in there. Frank Rosolino, Louis Belson, Don Menza, John Adino from The Tonight Show. I'm just trying to think who else played with us at that time. In the rhythm section. Oh, and Ray Brown's son was playing in it too. He was a student with us there. So we started this, and Earl Hagen's son. Now, Earl Hagen, and we go, who's he? And it's not name dropping. Earl Hagen wrote the Gomer Pyle theme and the Andy Griffith theme.
Oh, cool.
And his son was there. So he took us to the studio at Paramount to check out the new boards. So we had all this world in front of us. And SC was just freaking out. Now, as far as I know, it's one of the top jazz schools in the United States now. So I'm proud that we had a chance to start it.
So it must have been like a little culture shock moving from California to central Alberta. So what was it like back then in this area? What was different?
Calgary was scary. And it's not that I'd been to Calgary when I just had gotten out of high school with a marching band doing the Stampede Parade. So I'm going to end up here sometime. So I was destined to move there. We got across the border. We both looked. We just said, "What did we just do?" And it had nothing to do with the people or anything else. We looked around and just went, where are we? You know, so it was culture shock that way. There were things that we weren't used to. It had nothing to do about being in Canada. It was just bare land and farms, and we weren't used to that. We lived in an asphalt jungle, freeways everywhere, which was the plus side. So once we got to Calgary, and I looked for the best band directors in town, Bob Eklund, I said, teach me. And that is another thing, I guess, for young musicians, seek out people. There's two answers you get, yes or no. And so Bob took me under his wing, learned everything about concert band, called Al Muirhead, I want to talk to you, or Oop. And he wouldn't teach me lessons, but he said, we'll talk about music. And so I talked to musicians of Calgary, Eric Friedenberg, Al Muirhead, uh, trombone players, Sanborn, Hank Sanborn, sorry, couldn't think of Hank, he passed away, all the jazzers, and talked to me. Was I still, you know, part of that? No, I had to break myself in, and I did New Year's Eve gigs, and some other interesting gigs at the time. But I hadn't played for 5 years. I literally stopped playing. And a person named Dan Johnson, who is now playing in Vegas, he used to play with CPO, great jazzer. He told me to get my union card. We have a brass gig. Next thing I know, I'm playing again. So I owe him everything for getting back to playing. So there are a lot of people in my life who helped me. And I think that's very important. You know, you need to ask for help, and they will help you.
So that's interesting. You've been through some different phases of teaching and then playing more. So, like, what does that feel like to kind of go with that ebb and tide of music career?
Well, it's not when I wanted to play. I had playing. I played Latin gigs in LA. I mean, I played everything. If it paid, yep, I'll play. Played an opening of a hamburger stand with Panama Francis, who was Dinah Shore's drummer. So I had some great musicians I had the opportunity to play with. But then I decided I want to be a teacher. That's it. Cut my losses and said, I'm not playing anymore. So I was fine with that. And then I started playing a little more, and I said, yeah, I got the bug again, but I'm still a teacher. My mainstay is not playing. And when I retired, that's when I picked things up again. So it goes in and out. It wasn't my livelihood. I think that's the way I look at it. If I were making my living and that's the only way I could make it, yeah, that's a different story. But you know, I had a good paying job. I was teaching school, one of the directors of the Stampede Band, the Roundup Band. So, you know, I wasn't starving at any means. And so I did what I wanted to do. And I've always said, if you're not having fun, don't do it.
One of the things that you've really hammered home, especially for us people in Red Deer, is networking. And it sounds
Yeah.
like that was something that you definitely strive to do when you first came here. So can you tell us just like a little bit about what your philosophy is on that and how important it is to go out and meet people?
It's very important to meet people, but as I get to my age, I'm going, it's not that I pick and choose. Uh, I'm my own worst enemy, I guess. I don't promote myself, and I teach promotion of yourself. And I haven't done that because if my reputation, not my reputation, but people know how I play. And if they need me, they call me. And I'm not going to get on the phone, which you should do, saying, hey, Steve Sherman, do you have a gig for me? Because I had a day job. So it wasn't a do or die situation. Networking is so important. So if you want to be a musician, that's your livelihood, you have to network. You have to pound the pavement. I mean, I was booking bands here for about 10 years. And then COVID hit, and we'll talk about COVID, and I didn't follow up. And by not following up, Steve who? You know, if it's hotels and things like that. Uh, so you need to network. Did I do that? No. Do I go to jams? Not that often.
Something I've seen it in this area is
Yeah.
that not a lot of horn players are out playing, just in
Right.
general, jams or shows.
Hmm.
What I've seen is that, you know, typically it's a budget thing,
Right.
is that there's room for guitar and a vocalist or something, but horn players are usually the first ones to get cut. It's not just extra, right?
Yeah, but at the jam, I mean, that's how you network, but there's no work. I mean, I've played in horn bands,
Hmm.
in rock bands, funk bands, uh, and it's not about the pay. And I go back to that. I do it because I want to. One of the things I do of service has nothing to do with jazz. Anytime I do the last post, for veterans, for whatever it is, I tell them keep the check and donate it to some service. I've done it with the jazz group as well when I was subbing for you, I think.
Yep.
And so it's not about money for me. I mean, but however, I don't want to undermine the value of musicians. So if I'm doing a gig, for example, and I know they're only pay for a duo or enough for a duo and a half, I'll pay the musicians first and take the cut myself. It's just to keep music alive. And I can be criticized for that too, saying, well, you're undervaluing. I said, but it's my choice to take the money or not. I think for a lot of musicians, I've been told by great friends, it doesn't pay enough for doing musicals. When I booked my musical gigs when I was conducting, and I've done it to them too. The show is West Side Story. That's the toughest show I've ever played up to this time. And I know the first trumpet book because I did do it for another organization for free. And so I think we have to understand as musicians, there's times you take the money. There's times you do it of self-worth because it might get you another gig too. That's the selfish side of the thing. And it's not really selfish, it's promoting yourself as a lost leader. I think as a musician, we have to choose what we need for our own finances. So, and that's the problem. It's a catch-22. It goes back to networking. Sure, I'll do this gig for you for whatever, but next time, sweeten the pot if you're getting a bigger budget.
And it sounds like it's a little bit of a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Like, which one do you pick? Which one do you, volunteer for? It can be tricky a little time.
But it's also about finances because if like I'm in a good position, I've retired, I got a pension, you know, and so I'm in a better position than somebody who's starting out in a business or they're starting out as a musician who have been out because of COVID. That's your livelihood.
Mm.
And I know the COVID thing comes up somewhere in this. If and I can lean to that a little bit during COVID. Did it affect me? No, because I had a pension. So I could just sit at home, take my pension. It's not going to change. Was I short money because I wasn't doing workshops and all? Yeah, but I'm not going to, starve to death. There's always cat food for sea. No, but I was fine. And so that I think's the difference between a musician who this is their livelihood, which leads to another problem. How much do we charge the musicians? And I know the city of Red Deer came up with the Arts Council with a fee. And that's great, but if you're a small bar that can't afford anything, you're playing the gate or you're splitting a house and somehow. And so there's give and take. And the unions, I know with the union contracts, that's frowned upon. But we all want to survive, and during COVID especially. So I was doing a lot of free things right after COVID too, just to help get things moving, whether it be music or doing workshops or whatever. So I think that's for everybody to understand how finances work in the industry. We all want to get paid a fair wage for whatever we do.
So would you say like our psychology has changed a little bit? Like,
I think our values have changed. And that sounds like an old guy talking. Your values have changed. No, I think, but for reasons not anybody's fault because of financial. COVID took a hit out of all of us, bringing things together. Uh, just our lifestyles.
I think our culture has changed a little bit too. Like if you go back in previous eras, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have video games, and people used to make music as a social occasion.
Yes.
And especially live music, I don't think we do that as much anymore.
Depends where you are. And again, goes back that if you go to various communities, And it could be changing now too. Look, that have different religions, and I don't want to point them out because that's, a different topic. They sing in the church, or they're going to the church or temple, or whatever, and so they're doing it there. There's a lot of worship bands going on now
Mhm.
that people are playing in this town, especially. And so it's that thing of connecting whatever network you connect with. And we go back to that network. The religious thing is a network as well, and that's your community. So it's more of communities for participating. School programs are being cut back. So when you're fighting that, when you have principals saying, why should you have the money? Let's give it to the football team. My first school district used the Socratic Triangle. I don't know if you're academics, athletics, and the arts are valued equally. And so this district I had, if $100 went to arts, $100 went to sports, and $100 went to academia. They were all funded the same, and they were huge programs.
So nowadays we kind of have a lopsided triangle,
Oh,
right?
there ain't no triangle. It's just a bottom line. And again, I blame my university, USC, who started site-based management. So the school's saying, how do I get enough money for books? And we're going to fund the arts now. But the community will fund if you find it there. There's money there. You just have to look for it. Not a lot, but enough to survive.
So would you say that the state of education has changed?
Oh, it's a mess. And another topic, it's a mess. In music, it's a mess. I've done some advocacy, not successfully, talking to band parents, talking to school administrators, and the same answer, man, we got to balance our books. And you want me to spend, $2,000 on a trumpet or a tuba? Let's a bigger instrument. He said, and so they're under the guns too. And so we have to value the arts. And I know it's about jazz we're talking about, but we're all the same thing. And my whole mantra is there are two kinds of music, good and bad. I don't care if it's grunge, and I don't care if it's classical music. Bach wrote some not so good hits, trust me. So it's about music. But we are so locked into the thing that we want the kids to have fun, and they do have fun when they play well, or the program we went to. I mean, if it was a poor playing program, it wouldn't survive. And the thing is that the band is my medium. Doesn't mean you can't have a rock band at the school, but you have to be careful the tail doesn't wag the dog. And that's the same with the jazz band. When I grew up, the jazz band was non-existent in my high school, and we had some of the best musicians in LA. We sight read music for the publishers. That's how good this band was. But there was no jazz band. And my teacher was a studio musician. You want a jazz band? Do it yourself. We did. But he brought Doc in to talk to us. He'd bring guest musicians to talk to us. So they didn't have it there, but he gave us opportunities on our own. I think he knew we could do it. That's why we did it. Schools are losing those programs. They're lucky they have a concert band. They'll have a guitar class, and there's nothing wrong with guitars. But we need to learn the fundamentals. And most guitar classes, and I've seen some very good ones, we're talking more about playing recreational guitar, learning chords, and be able to play our favorite tunes. And we aren't talking about music. There has to be a balance of learning the music. And that's where Red Deer College was so good. I went to Red Deer College. I started in '81 doing the jazz band, teaching trumpet, then became full-time in 2002. And the prep program was the best thing that ever happened. And I wish Keith Mann was around to see it, because we took students who really didn't know a lot about music. They were coming off the pipeline. They wanted to go to school, didn't have a clue what they wanted to do, but thought, I know music. And so we gave them a year to find out if that's what they wanted to do. They didn't read music, they read tab. And so we took them and gave them formal training. And for some it worked great, for some, no. And I told students, this is the wrong place. Get a good teacher, get out of here. You're spending too much money. And the college didn't like that. But they got a chance to see what they want to do. Music would be the business side, whether it was playing classical guitar, which they fought. And I'll tell you, and or whatever. And they had to learn about basic theory so they could go into a post-secondary situation. And so what happened there, and I will die, this is my favorite thing that happened to me. We had a recital, and we had guys, with all due respect, were gearheads. We're playing Bach inventions on part of the recital, and then played this heavy metal thing you could play. AC/DC, I can't remember what's been so long. I know they did Crazy Train. It's not too hard, but they did something else. And I was in tears. I said, finally, we realized music is the same. We have the same language, and whether it was rock or classical. In a lot of schools, it's a divide. At the college, it wasn't. Now, from the beginning it was. I'm not going to be a liar about that, because they said, we're classical. I said, no, you're not. Look what you have for students. And I came from a high school. Let's work with them. And the prep program was our godsend. The other one was a business music course. So to me, for the musicians, I think it helped a lot of musicians find out if they really wanted to be a professional musician or they want to take another path.
It must have been an incredibly difficult position to be in, especially being that kind of go-between between the students and the faculty. And
Yeah, I was because the students produced all the shows, but I was the faculty advisor. So I was dealing on both sides and fighting for them. And there were times I just was hitting your head against a wall. And I can hit my head pretty hard against the wall, but it wasn't going to go anywhere. It was going to make it worse for them and the department. That was the other reason I left. I didn't want to make it worse for the department, because I have a tendency to be a bull in a china closet and no tact at times. I'm the first one to admit it. But if it's for my students, I'll take it to the wall. And yeah, the college, it bothered me, still bothers me, but it's, there's nothing we can do about it now. Hopefully somebody will be smarter and restart it. They've sold all the instruments, which I didn't know about. The good part about this, and it is public, all the music from the jazz band, the concert band, I think the orchestra music is with Red Deer Community Band Society.
oh, cool.
Red Deer Band Community, we will hold it for perpetuity. It's in writing, and I have it until a music program starts back up there. So it's being put to good use.
Good.
And so I had the insight to see that the instruments weren't the same. I got a phone call saying where the instruments were. They were sold. And this is business again in music. One of our biggest supporters of the program, who called me and said, what can we do to save the program, even though I wasn't there? I said, I think it's a done deal. They bought the instruments. And he apologized. I said, look, it's business. If you don't buy it, another music store will.
Mm-hmm. That's
where you have to sort of say, okay, I see the picture. I don't like it, but somebody's going to make a buck on it. May as well be you've supported us. He usually put money up for us to see if I said, no, it's just not going to go anywhere.
It seemed to me like it was something that, like, they kind of went for the jugular. Like, they knew that if things got out, they didn't want to make an uproar, so they wanted to do it without any resistance.
You hit it right. And so they did it right when school was out. The students were gone. They couldn't do anything. They tried to start up, and they called me because I wasn't on faculty. Right? They can't fire me. And so I said, I gave them some ideas, but it went nowhere fast. I went to the MLAs. The MPs really have no, and before they supported, I won't say who was MLAs at that time. It was like, why are you talking to me? Talk post-secondary. I said, no. I said, you can support this. And they were told, no. We had the symphony in support. I was coordinator of music for Chinook's Edge. I was there. We had the mayor and support. Everybody was there defending the program when they tried to close it on Keith.
And what year was that?
Oh, gosh, I can't remember. I want to say 85, 80. It was done 2-3 times. Mm-hmm. So one was in the 80s, one was in the 90s. It was tried a couple times because music costs money. Mm-hmm. And we know that. And what they're using, I've been through there, they're using as classrooms, as rental space in some cases. The stage is not bustling like it used to be. We were the arts capital of Canada, and the Arts Center was the cause of it. We were doing musicals every year, full Broadway shows, bringing professional choreographers, professional directors, and I was very blessed because I was doing a lot of musical productions conducted at the time. I probably did 25 productions, not more, and with great musicians, sometimes with students, bringing professionals, work with students, depending on what the show was.
So you said something interesting. It was the nucleus of the community, and when I was there, like there's always some kind of music thing going. People practicing. You could pull someone aside, have a conversation with them. So how significant is it that Red Deer doesn't have that anymore?
Well, I'm not even sure what's going on with the conservatory music right now. Because Joyce Howell retired, and so I don't have my fingers in that pot. I assume there's a little bit going on there, but all the practice rooms now are offices, so I'm not sure. There's a ABA festival goes on there still. Our music camp Alberta is there. Uh, there's also the ABA. There's also the Kiwanis festivals there, the arts. That's about it. It's every time I do a workshop, which is not a lot, I tend not to want to do things there. Uh, it's just dead. It's like silent. It's like ghosts in the hallway. It's scary. But it was a nucleus. There was a driving force of the arts. It wasn't just us. Everybody in the community. And when I came there, and Keith the same way, we're not a White Castle in the middle of a city. We're part of the city. So because you have a higher education, doesn't mean you're any better than anybody else. I only have my bachelor's degree in music. They let me stay. It was a long fight, but they let me stay because of what my path was. We talked about before. And I've always said I didn't want to teach post-secondary for that reason. And we said, let's get grounded and work with the community. And we did. We'd go in and guest conduct. We'd work workshops. We did all we could to go in the community. All of us would go in and guest conduct at no cost to the schools. So that was part of our PD and what we had to do for the college. And go in there and work with them. All those things. That's what the community's about. And I know it's about jazz, but it's the music community. And that's what the chamber orchestra is doing right now. They're bringing people who are very fine players, who are either teachers or whatever they're doing, and it's not their livelihood. And we started the chamber orchestra playing in. And we don't just do classical music. We do pop songs. We do Christmas music. There's some jazz involved where I'm asked to do some solos. Audrey's played with us. We did a country show last year. So that's what that group's trying to do. It's not the Red Deer Symphony. It's not intended to be there. It's a 20-piece community. But we have a mini jazz band out of there. We have a brass quartet. The brass quartet, it was a quintet this time. We just played at Comic-Con.
Oh, nice.
And I thought, I've done all the gigs in my life. I'm doing Comic-Con. It was like play Star, because it was for James Earl Jones' passing. They had us play all the songs, he was involved with. So the stuff's here. That's the hidden gem in town of musicians and string players. We have a string section. So that's a different avenue than jazz. But again, I said before, it's all the same music. Strauss he had a dance hall. That's what his waltzes were. They were dances. It was like the dance hall or bars we have now, discos. He was a classical player, but they did the Strauss waltzes. Music is music. And if that's they can put that on my cast. Well, there's some other things, but music is music. And, but we tend not to. Jazzers are here. Classical players are here. Country players are here. Symphony players are here. And nobody wants to talk. We're starting to finally talk a little bit. And we're all in the same business.
So in Red Deer, what would you like to see happen? What do you think Red Deer needs to do over the next year? What could we do to kind of improve our communities here?
We're starting to. It's picking up again. We have a lot of small venues to play at. It's coming back again. I was talking to somebody at NAMM, actually. And I said, yeah, we've got 3 jazz places, 3 rock. We talked about. They said, really? I said, yeah, for a small city, that's a lot. I said, yeah. We have to provide venues that people can play at, that the owners can afford. Like, for example, Danielle's. I think they moved to the Vat now. They're bringing a funk band out of Calgary.
Yeah.
And I've seen him sing. He's great. Saw John Day doing a workshop. So I'm coming to Red Deer. I said, yeah, you're playing this Motown show. And so those kind of things cost money unless they're working for a gate. I mean, I saw some very talented people who are playing right now at the Velvet Olive. They're doing a one-off, so getting paid not a lot of money. Didn't ask, but I know it's not going to be a lot because it's a small house. And did a great show. After that, we've lost a bunch of small places downtown because of COVID. Down at the Bower Pond, they have that stage.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're running. I talked to some people that said the rent has gone up, and I could be totally wrong because I didn't check into it myself. But we used to have the big bands out there. We used to do the 7 concerts in the park from the TV station. We lost our studio here. That had effect. I think what all the musicians have to get down saying, okay, let's talk. How can we pull this together to make this the arts capital of Canada again? Whatever genre we play in. It could be jazz, it could be whatever. I play country. I play swing, old country swing. Doesn't matter. And the Elks Club has had some great blues shows there. And how can we serve that? Because the dollar is shrinking. The expendable dollar is not there for concerts as much unless it's big name concerts. We have Trooper coming in town. Mm-hmm. We've had the Stampeders here. We have the Louisiana Hayride coming through, which I'd love to go see, but it falls midweek and I'm in rehearsals. And Joe Public only has so many dollars. Can we put it together and bundle the concerts and do a ticket? You go to 5 concerts in Red Deer and you pay this price. Or you pick 3. The Edmonton Symphony is doing that right now for their concert series. You get 15% discount if you pick 3 concerts.
Oh, cool.
Which was cool. So how do we help each other out? Because we all protect our territory. There's only so many dollars going around. So if we take an hour and not, putting our bacon on the line, saying we're going to go to jail for it, do it in a proactive manner, and you find sponsors, and you all work for that. I mean, if a bank says, okay, we're going to do a 5-concert series, then they have the choice who they want to choose. Let's work together. And that's the problem. Funding is important. More money for the arts. I mean, they're hurting.
So one of the interesting things I discovered, so last year when we did the Red Deer Jazz Festival, it was just one event at the Olive. Mm-hmm. And we sold out. Like there was no seats. Nobody could, like everything was full. But I didn't even know like half the people there. And what I realized is that there is enough of a subculture there in Red Deer to kind of support these scenes. There are enough people on a given night, but it's just about how do you reach them? How do you pull them in? Mm-hmm. But that's something interesting about Red Deer. I was like, well, is there enough of a market to do something like that? And there is.
Oh, there is.
But again, it's just about how to pull those people in. Do you have any tips?
No, well, there's one. If you have a sign up saying we need on our list, we can contact you. Now you have a mailing list, and you say my next show is, or do it online. But there's a generation on Facebook, like me or be our friend. I still like you have something down. Some people won't give you the email. You say I'm only for our list. We're not selling to anybody else. And they go, yeah, right. And they can, you fill it out in such a way that they check off. And if you do something else, then you're going to go to jail because you've lied to them. I think social media is great. It's not the only thing. I'm not that I'm old school. I'm on social media, but I check that. But some people want to see a poster. Some people want to see a fly. I don't have the answer because there is no definitive answer. I had a dinner theater company. I went around to every car in a parking lot until I got caught by the ownership of the malls and said, come to see our dinner company. We used to be at the Black Knight Inn. And you get $1 or $2, whatever it was, off coupon if you show us this coupon for the show. We were selling out.
I think
So that's stupid.
you're onto something here. There's like you have to
Think,
reach out, you have to go out and meet people, and those are the people that are coming.
now the Red Deer Symphony is not going to like me because I remember this only so vividly. They used to sell their tickets at the mall for their concerts.
Mm-hmm.
The college did too. Treehouse did. They give us a booth and we'd sell our tickets for our concerts. Stage West did that for the longest time.
Yeah.
Then they used to come to the schools and say, we're doing a symphony concert because Innisfail sold them. I can't remember how much we got, how much the tickets were, but we got a fairly good chunk of money for their tickets. Gave them more bodies, new people seeing their show or their concert. And you've got to touch, again, it goes back, you have to touch the people, make personal contacts. Not, this thing, on the cloud or wherever it may be is one way, but I still think personal contacts. Give somebody a free ticket, say you can come for free if they buy a ticket. Now it's half price. Then they, wow, I like the concert. They're going to come back to another concert. Or they say it really sucks, and then you've got now another problem. So promoters used to have people go beat the streets, for rock groups, and say, take it to your high school, give them some free, once old enough to go to, if there was a bar gig, to come to the bar and they get a VIP pass. Oh, and tell them to bring a friend with them. Now you created a following.
Hey, these are awesome ideas.
No, they just, do they all work? No, but it's worth trying. If we haven't tried it, how do you know? And it's that, I go back to that, you asked what we're missing in Red Deer, that business class for musicians. Do they all work? Heck, no. And some things, and the students came with some really bizarre ideas, and I said, man, I don't love the idea. I don't think it's going to work, but I love the idea.
So, Steve, what's next for you? Where can we hear you play next? What are you working on?
When it comes up, there's a couple things in the fire. I'm playing with the Central Alberta Chamber Orchestra for the Christmas shows. I'll be doing a little jazz, it looks like, on that one.
Nice.
And that's all I know right now. There's some talk about New Year's Eve. I'm still not sure what's going on there. And they better decide sooner or later because I'm going somewhere else. It's when it comes. I'd never know. I get calls and saying, can you do this? And I go, yeah. It's not that I'm going to book a gig every week in a bar. I enjoyed doing the two-nighters when I was at the Capri. And even that was hard because I was teaching and I'd be subbing out a lot for other things. You'll see me playing around. Depends what it is. Hopefully everything goes well. I'll be playing the Swing Time Jam on the 30th. But I just, right now, as it comes.
Do you have a show coming up with Jazz Explosion?
Oh, that's right. I sure do. November 18th, we're doing the Rotary Seniors Concert.
Nice. Where's that? That
is the Arts Center. It's for seniors.
Excellent.
And I should be sitting in the audience, not messing around on stage. We're doing a whole Christmas show. And the Red Deer Community Band has the Tuesday night band, which Val actually conducts, my wife, and then the Jazz Explosion. And there's a bunch of other acts in there. And any senior wants to come to it, contact the Rotary Club in Red Deer, and they have buses providing them if they're in seniors' homes, and it's free.
Excellent.
Outside of that, we have concerts for Red Deer Community Band Society in December, and that's the marathon concert of all the bands: Red Deer Royals, Monday Night Band, Tuesday Night Band, Jazz Explosion.
When's that? That
is December the 11th. Well, thank you, TELUS STORYHIVE, for providing the opportunity to talk about jazz and music in general. I think it's a great opportunity for people to understand what's going on in Red Deer. And thank you, Andrew, for putting this all together.